Hey, what's up guys? Cattle here again, and today I'm going to be going over general macro strats on Cursed Hollow, mainly how to play around the tribute spawns and how you want to set up the map and play around with your mercenaries to have the best chance of actually getting the tributes. The first point in the game that you really want to look out for is right at the 30-second mark, because that's when you see where the first tribute is spawning. That'll go right at the 30-second mark. We find out the tribute spawns top. So based off of this, now we have a few things to prepare for. We want to decide whether or not we want to contest the first tribute or not, and based off of that we want to set up our lanes by the 3-minute mark and have our mercenaries out in that time depending on what we want to accomplish with them. So in this case, since we're the blue side, let's look at mercenaries first. Our ogres are in the tribute lane, which means during the tribute spawn they won't be able to split push, and if we cap them too late, they'll have 4 or 5 heroes top and they can really easily clear the ogres. So based off of that information, we want to get our ogres out on the early side and make sure that they can actually pressure while they can't be cleared for free. So most likely we want to get our ogres right at the 1-minute mark just so they can develop some pressure. Off of that, we should probably rotate to our hards, get a push going there, and then we can have our tri-lane with hammer, Deckard, and an ETC set up mid, just pushing with the hards. Maybe a Sonya rotates down, and we can have our global in the off lane. Then we're set up perfectly for the trib spawn top, and we can decide whether or not we want to keep Falstad split, play for soak, or if we want to fly him up for a 5v4. That's what I would do in this situation, and there's a lot of other things you can do too. We can also decide to push bottom with hammer, but it's slightly more of a riskier strategy, since if you can get the first tribute based off your global pressure, since they don't have any and they have a very weak early game with Asmodan, you should probably play for that. So let's see how this game plays out with Mercs in the early game. Go up to the 1-minute mark. Unfortunately, since it is Hero League, all of these things aren't going to happen. But yeah, we'll just go off of what does happen and then see how things could still be adapted to work with what actually happens. Yeah, everyone's just kind of brawling mid. We get to Mercs a little late, but we do get our easies out early, and off of that, those are going to be pushing top. Unfortunately for the red team, they're not doing any Merc camp right now, and they're just kind of walking around, so that they are wasting a little bit of time. As we get closer to trib, they do start on their hard camp. We should start on our hard camp as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen since we've just done a very good clear. And it also looks like at this point, since the tribute is coming up in less than a minute, it looks like the blue side would rather play for a bottom push. So based off of this info, we now need to try and adapt our situation on the top side to stall this as long as possible, so everyone bottom can do as much damage to the wall as possible. The blue team does get their, or the red team gets their mercs out. They do have a hard push mid, which is good, and they are setting up for late easies, which means if the blue side does decide to commit 5 top, the easy camp will push bottom and take this wall, and depending on how long it takes, it actually would take the fort. So well played by them to get this camp out late, and yeah, the blue team kind of didn't do anything. There's a very long scrap, and there is a kill down here, so off of this should be pretty easy for them to just keep pushing bottom, which they do. And yeah, this is where you see that nothing is really planned ahead. ETC is rotating all the way up, even though most likely there's no chance that this tribute actually does get capped, seeing as they have Ana, Medivh, and our bottom lane is now in trouble. We'll just fast forward to the next one. As you can see, it's a complete clown fiesta, and nothing really happened to set up the map properly, and due to that now, no one on either side is really getting much. Like, this wall was already dead, this camp is dead, this camp is dead. So as you can see, it could have been played just so incredibly more efficiently, and yeah, there could have been so many more options. Okay, based off of that, we're just going to fast forward to the next tribute. Just skip everything in between because it's not very relevant to the game. Okay. As we get to the next tribute spawn, again, you get into the stage where you reevaluate what you want to do as your macro game plan. We see this tribute. It spawns on the enemy side, and it's spawning bottom. So no matter what, for sure, we want to make sure that our Falstad gets top before this is spawning, so we have the option for a 5v4 bottom if they do keep someone top. We want to get our mercs out again, these preferably late during the trib, so that if they do commit 5 down and we commit 5 down, that the ogres will pressure top. And with the hards, we just want to try to get them out, get a mid wall with as many heroes as possible, and try to make it to 10. Yeah. Our map's in a pretty good spot. Hards are done. Easies were unfortunately not completed. These would have been really, really important to get out, but there's too much focus on just mindless soaking rather than getting this camp out. Because if this was rolling top, An ogre camp left alone can just do so much damage, and it's literally like it's just getting you free kills basically top by taking this fort down. Unfortunately, there's a pick right as the tribute spawn, so there's no longer really any option to go for this, which is fine. We just have to readapt, kind of skip this trib, and then we'll just fast forward to the next one. Okay, there is a small scrap over this, but again, it's not very important in the grand scheme of things. I just want to cover the tribute brawls. In the situation where a third trib is spawning, this time we see they're at 2 out of 3. It's on the left side, so it's on our positioning and we want to cap it. There's a chance they don't actually go for it, especially because all of their ults are down. So based off of that info, we just want to make sure that we can get to the trib in time and play around bosses potentially even too. We still see 4 heroes down here, so Hammer can just split forever, and yeah, this tribute kind of just turns into almost a free cap, it looks like, since no one is really playing for it, which makes sense just because all their ults are down. Yeah, as you can see again, mercs aren't being done by either team really. Everyone's just kind of wasting time running around, and just everything could be played way more efficiently if tribs were planned around, because at the end of the day, if you can play around getting the objective, you're gonna have a much higher chance of actually winning the game. Just kind of breeze through here again. Doesn't really matter what the end result is. The blue team ended up getting the tribute. It's now 2-1, and as we can see well in advance, this is where the tribute's spawning. Really important when you're playing this map. Check the minimap often, make sure you know where the tribute is spawning, because based off of that info you need to decide where you're going to be in advance. So due to the fact that we know they're at 2 out of 3, and we see that the tribute is spawning here, we don't want to play too far towards the bot lane anymore, outside of Falstad or ETC, who took stage dive as well. So a global can be soaking bot, but if, for example, let's say Hammer were to go bot, that basically concedes the tribute 100%. So if you're, for example, Hammer or Deckard or Sonya here, there's no reason for you to be bot anywhere once the tribute could be spawning. Now once the tribute is actually spawning, as you can see, luckily no one's positioned too far away, positioned well for the trib, and this trib will be fought over nicely. Okay, so off of that last tribute, the red team does end up capping it, and basically they wipe everyone, end up getting a good curse, they get the bot keep with boss, and then the next tribute is spawning again. So now the count is reset for the red team, and the blue team is at 1. So neither team is really desperate to get this trib, but it is on the blue team side, and all the ults are down, so it is something you can position for. We do have a siege camp pushing top, and now this is really important because it means for the blue team that the longer they stall, the more this camp is going to get. Let's say you stall for a minute at the trib somehow, this keep is going to almost be dead. So based off of that, we want to play very slow, and you want to kind of determine how you want to play your fights based off of the positioning of the trib and where the mercs are on the map. Okay, the blue team ended up getting this last tribute, and they won a fight pretty decisively, now pretty far in advance, and now we see the next tribute is spawning bottom. More things we can look at now. We're back to mercs. Blue team doesn't have any mercs up, but the red team has a boss up, and the blue team now has a lot of map control, and the curse is spawning bottom. So based off of this, we now have 2 options. We can either play to be there at the curse right away, or we can play to potentially look for their boss, look for keep, and look for end. Curse boss at this point is also basically a guaranteed end if the blue team can make it to 20. So based off of this info, we want to be rotating towards the middle or the top side of the map, and since there's 2 globals on the blue side, they can float towards the tribute, and they can always cap this if the red team does decide to show 5 up on the top side. Yeah, this game in specific, this is where everything goes wrong. We have an ETC global who's watching the boss, which is good. Falstad splitting bottom, which is good because he can easily get to the tribute. But for some reason, instead of pressuring the boss, we give a 2018 experience advantage boss to the red side. So this is a case where even at the GM level, you can tell that no one is really thinking ahead or watching where the tribute is spawning. Because if everyone was paying attention to when the tribute is spawning, then we would be up here, ready to contest this and fight for this boss with the 2018 experience lead, which ETC could have picked up in the top lane. Instead, we end up getting the curse, but no boss. and a pick, unfortunately, as well. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up the important trips of the game. We'll see. Overall, just the things to look for. That right there, that tribute, that is where the game should have ended. And I just really want to stress how important it is to look ahead, see where the tributes are spawning on the map, and then base all of your actions for where the objective is spawning off of that information. If the tribute's spawning bot and you're topside without any mobility, you're not making it there and your team's probably going to lose it. So just try to keep that in mind. And as you can see, the 2018 lead with a curse and a free boss turns into a 2020 even game with bot keep already dead, top keep now dying to this boss as well, and in the end this game does end up in a loss a few minutes later. So, and all of this is off of just a curse being ignored and just the information on the map being ignored. Not watching the minimap for objective spawns and playing around it is basically as bad as not watching your minimap at all. So yeah, based off of that, I hope this has stressed how important it is to just keep an eye on where the objective is and really plan ahead, because based off of that info, you can just do so much more with your gameplay and really plan around how to effectively win the game rather than reacting to every situation 10 seconds in advance. Planning is how you win games, and even if you're just playing Hero League or whatever and your allies aren't necessarily going to do that, just try to do it for yourself at least, and it really helps you get into position better on the map because it lets you be in the right places more often rather than having to guess where you have to be in the last second or making a short, like, snap judgment call. Yeah, being prepared is everything, and I hope this gives you a better grasp on how to respond to different situations on tribute spawns. If you enjoy this, yeah, feel free to let me know, and I'll try to do some of these for other maps. Thanks for watching.